Hi everyone, it's time for another Doodle video. Hope you're all doing okay. Today, the picture we're going to make is going to be something that comes from a country at the bottom of the world called Australia. It is Australia Day on the 26th of January, but I've decided to make our artwork inspired by the indigenous people called the Aborigines, who were the first people who lived in Australia. And they have a style of art that's very specific to them. You won't find art that looks like that somewhere else. So it's Aboriginal art inspired piece that we're doing today, very much pattern based. When they made their work, they did these beautiful patterns that were painted on wood and stone. In the sand, they used the sand to make their patterns a lot, and on leaves, just nature. So because their art was very nature based, they based it a lot on nature, I thought we'd incorporate some trees into our picture. So I will now go to my sharing screen over here and find the PowerPoint, and we'll share that. And here we go. So let's go to the top of the page here. We'll go to slideshow and we will start. No, we won't. Oh dear, sorry, let's go back. Okay, slideshow. Let's start the slideshow from the beginning. Okay, now you should see the start of the slideshow. Okay, so Australia Day, 26th of January, which is actually a celebration of when the colonization started in Australia, but we're actually making our artwork based on the original people, the Aboriginals, who were the people who lived in Australia at the very start before anybody arrived there. So what you need today, just some white paper or card again, some pencil, and a pair of scissors. And if you start off with that, those few things, you also might need some black paint. If you have black paint, if you don't, there's another way we can do a certain part of it. So it doesn't matter if you don't have any black paint, but you're going to need your white paper, a pencil, some scissors, some color pencils, and black paint or pens. Okay. So the first thing you need to do on your piece of A4 card is draw some shapes of trees. You can see I've got two there. They're about the thickness of a ruler, just going all the way from the top to the bottom, and then some branches coming off just to add some interest. So you can see you've got positive and negative spaces. Now what that means is you've got some shapes happening, and then you've got a space behind the shape. So your positive space here would be your tree or trees, and then your negative space is the shapes that happen behind the trees. So you've got some nice balance of the two there. So once you've decided to draw in your trees, these are the two different ways you can make the shapes of your trees to make them look round and put some interest into those tree trunks and branches. With your black paint, if you use the edge of a paintbrush and you go to the very edge of your trunk of your tree, and you just sort of put it down very neatly and sort of push it in gently, swoop it in, maybe make it a bit bendy, so then your tree will look like it's round instead of a flat tree. If you make your lines go straight, it'll look flat, but if you swoop your lines down, you'll make your tree look rounded. And then you carry on and you do the same on your branches. You can even do some lines, as I've done here in the very middle of the tree, just to show the little markings of the bark on the tree. Now, if you don't have any black paint or brown paint, whatever color, you can do whatever colors you want here. You can do the same effect with pencils. This is just my normal pencil, drawing pencil, and I've drawn in those kind of marks with pencil. They're a bit scribbly if you look really closely. They're very scribbly lines. They're not very neat, tidy lines. Just depends on your style, how you want to do it. But once again, if you make them a swooshy, bendy line, then you'll give shape to the tree trunk. So those are your two trees there in your drawing. The next part I did was I carefully cut them out around the edges, so they just something separate. You cut out the background now, that negative space I was talking about. So now you've got these two tree outlines. So the next part to put in your background, I thought we'd use these patterns that the Aborigines used. Now different tribes had different styles. Some people used a lot of the dots, the dot painting. Some people used lines. They crisscrossed them over each other. That's like that. That's called cross-hatching. It depended what tribe you were from that you were allowed to do a certain style. So we're using their artwork as inspiration. And here's a few examples that I found when I was doing my research that I thought were quite striking. They caught my attention. So what you're going to need is a piece of card or paper, white or colored. Now, if you don't have colored paper, because I know a lot of people don't have color, you can make your own color, which is what I did here. Firstly, I'd like to point out how you can see the piece of paper is marked into 3 sections. Now that's because behind the trees, there were 3 spaces, because there were 2 trees, so 3 spaces behind. Now, if you just sort of measure out, not exactly, it's not maths, but if you just sort of do a space that you think is going to be big enough to fit between your trees, and you can color it in with a pencil if you don't have colored paper. The Aboriginal art was very colorful. So you can have white as your background, that's absolutely fine, it doesn't matter. But I wanted to do a bit of color, and to make color paper, I just used some color pencils. I tried to keep my colors quite earthy and natural, because that's the style of the Aboriginal artwork. So here you can see I started to color in one section with a orangey color, and then I colored in the other 2. They don't look different on the screen, but they were actually 3 very different color pencils. And it's a bit messy, you can see my lines, that doesn't matter. So now I've got colored background to work with, 3 different strips. So in each of those strips, I've chosen a different pattern, inspired by the pictures we saw on the previous slides of Aboriginal art. Big circles filled with lines on the left-hand side there, the orange and green ones. There's no dots going on in that one. The middle one, obviously lots of dots and circles and lines, wavy lines on the right-hand one filled in with little dots. I used just a few Sharpies to do this, the color work, so to make it stand out, nice and bold, strong colors. You can use felt tips, you can use colored pencils, you can even do this in painting. It's up to you, you can do it however you want. One technique of making dots is if you use earbuds, ask your parent for a couple of earbuds if you've got paint, and if you dip the earbuds into your paint and then put them on the paper, you have a really quick and nice way of doing some nice sized dots in your artwork. It looks really, really good and effective. So that's now 3 strips of Aboriginal inspired pattern work. And then your next step is to cut them up into your 3 sections. So carefully cut them up along the lines. And then you've got 3, which you will then attach behind your trees. So now you can see why I said about measuring them, so you can fit them behind the space. It's not really important if your trees are separate and you can move them apart how you want. My trees happen to overlap over here, so I was stuck with this space that I had to measure to fill up. And then I just stuck the other patterns on the outside of the 2 trees. So you've got some trees, a very natural picture with nature theme, some nice tree trunks, and with Aboriginal inspired patterns in natural colors behind, which I thought was quite an effective picture. So I'll just stop sharing that, and there I am. I'll show you my picture. That's the size it turned up. It's a bit wider than the original A4 because the pieces, when they got, you can't actually see how they stuck together there, but the picture ends up quite wide because of the pieces stuck to the edge of the tree from the back. That's the overall effect of that Aboriginal inspired picture. So I hope you feel excited to go off and do some pattern work. You can make them whatever you like. It's a bit like, reminded me of doing the Zentangle patterns the other day. So you can have fun, make whatever patterns you want, get inspired by pictures from the slide or do some research and make your own Aboriginal style picture. So I hope you're all going to have fun, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye.